Good morning, class. In our previous lesson, we learned that plant leaves play a crucial role in food production through photosynthesis. This complex process converts raw materials like carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen, using sunlight as an energy source. Photosynthesis occurs in two stages: light dependent reaction and light independent reaction are also known as Calvin's cycle. Today, we will focus on the light dependent reaction. Look around and observe all the plants near you. What colors do you see? Why do you think plants have different colors? Does the color of the plant affect how much sunlight it absorbs? Some leaves are deep green, while others have reddish or yellowish colors. Plants contain special molecules called pigments, which absorb and reflect specific wavelengths of light. The three major pigment groups found in plants are chlorophyll. This pigment gives leaves their green color and play a crucial role in absorbing light energy for photosynthesis. Carotenoids. These pigments provide orange and yellow color and assist in light absorption, especially in the blue and green regions of the spectrum. Phycobilins, found primarily in some algae. These pigments help capture additional light for photosynthesis. Each pigment contributes to the plant's ability to capture and utilize light energy efficiently. Imagine a plant with red leaves. Do you think it absorbs light the same way as a green plant? Why or why not? Red leaf plants absorb light differently due to their pigments, while green plants primarily absorb red and blue light using chlorophyll. Red leaf plants contain anthocyanins, which reflect red light and absorb more blue and green light. However, they still perform photosynthesis effectively. How does sunlight trigger photosynthesis? Inside chloroplasts, pigments are arranged into photosystems, which act like tiny solar panels. The two main photosystems are Photosystem 2 or P680, meaning it absorbs light at 680 nanometers. Photosystem 1 or P700, meaning it absorbs light at 700 nanometers. The light-dependent reaction occur within thylakoids. The thylakoid membranes contain specialized molecules that work together to perform the light reactions. Light is absorbed by protein pigment complexes called photosystems. There are two photosystems as I mentioned a while ago: Photosystem 1 and Photosystem 2. The photosystems transform light energy to chemical energy by exciting and then shuttling electrons from molecule to molecule in a chain-like fashion on the thylakoid membrane. This process is called an electron transport chain. Let's take a closer look to see how this process works. The light-dependent reaction begins when light energy is absorbed by photosystems, which contain chlorophyll and other pigments embedded in the thylakoid membrane. The process starts with photosystem 2 as it absorbs light at 680 nm first. When a photon or light energy strikes photosystem 2, it excites electrons in chlorophyll, raising them to a higher energy state. The excited electrons are then passed to an electron carrier. Meanwhile, water splits and releases electrons. These electrons replace those lost at photosystem 2. The byproduct of this reaction is oxygen, which is eventually released into the air. The other products are protons or hydrogen ions, which is released into the inside of the thylakoid or lumen. The excited electrons move to the cytochrome complex. Some of the energy from the electrons is used by the cytochrome complex to transport additional protons into the lumen. The second electron carrier, a protein inside the lumen, receives the electrons and passes them to photosystem 1. These electrons have now lost the most of the energy they gained from light in photosystem 2. Photons of light hit chlorophyll in photosystem 1 and excite the electrons again. The electrons are then passed to the third electron carrier. Finally, these electrons are either recycled or they interact with an enzyme and NADP+, the final electron acceptor of the light reactions, to form NADPH. Some of the energy from light is now stored in the molecule NADPH. Some of the energy released from the transfer of electrons established a proton gradient across the thylakoid membrane. Protons that accumulated in the lumen diffuse into the stroma through an enzyme called ATP synthase. ATP synthase uses the potential energy of the proton gradient to combine ADP with inorganic phosphate to form ATP. In this way, the potential energy is transformed into chemical energy stored in ATP. ATP and NADPH now have stored energy from the light reactions. This energy can be used in the next reaction, which is the Calvin cycle. This light driven electron transport chain is usually continuous in the presence of sunlight. It compasses a series of chemical reactions that involve light absorption, energy conversion, and electron transfer, carried out by the photosystems and other enzymes on the membrane of the thylakoids. The light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis involve two pathways for ATP production: non-cyclic photophosphorylation and cyclic photophosphorylation. These pathways both occur in the thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast and involve electron transport chains. However, they differ in their electron flow and products. The non-cyclic photophosphorylation is the primary pathway of the light-dependent reactions. It follows a linear electron flow from photosystem 2 to photosystem 1, producing ATP, NADPH, and oxygen, just like what you saw a while ago. While cyclic photophosphorylation is an alternative pathway in the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis that involves only photosystem 1 and produces ATP without generating NADPH or oxygen. Cyclic photophosphorylation involves photosystem 1, electron transport chain, ATP synthase, and there are also protons distributed across both sides of the membrane. Cyclic photophosphorylation begins when sunlight hits the photosystem 1. It excites electron in the pigment molecules of the photosystem. An excited electron is expelled from the reaction center of the photosystem. The excited electron is passed down the electron transport chain and its energy is used to pump protons across the membrane. At the bottom of the electron transport chain, the electron has used up the extra energy it absorbed from the sunlight. The low energy electron returns back to the reaction center of the photosystem 1. The process can now begin again. Sunlight heats the electron and excites it. The excited electron travels down to the electron transport chain again, and its energy is used once more to pump more protons across the membrane. The spent electron returns again to the reaction center of the photosystem. This process is called cyclic photophosphorylation because the electron travels in a continuous loop. The result of this process is that gradient of protons builds up on one side of the membrane. These protons flow down their concentration gradient
through a turbine engine called ATP synthase. The flow of protons turns the rotor, providing mechanical energy to force phosphate groups onto ADP, forming ATP, the energy currency of the cell. This is how cyclic photophosphorylation works. The cyclic photophosphorylation helps plants maintain the necessary ATP levels, ensuring an adequate energy supply for the Calvin cycle and other cellular activities. If plant is in low light environment, would it use cyclic or non-cyclic photophosphorylation? Why? In low light conditions, the plant would rely more on cyclic photophosphorylation because it provides a continuous supply of ATP without requiring as much light. Understanding the light dependent reactions allows us to appreciate how plants harness sunlight to power life on Earth. Through intricate processes within the thylakoid membrane, plants convert light energy into ATP and NADPH, which is a crucial molecules that fuel the next stage of photosynthesis, the Calvin cycle. Without these reactions, plants would not be able to produce the energy needed for growth, survival, and oxygen production. As we move forward, let's explore how these energy carriers contribute to the synthesis of sugars in the next phase of photosynthesis. Today, we explored the light dependent reactions and how plants transform sunlight into energy. As we move into the Govan cycle, think about this. How do ATP and NADPH help plants build sugars? That's it for today. See you next time.